Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. The project I got for you guys today is a beam bench. The story goes, I was on one of my project sites. I saw this beat up beam covered in stucco and drywall dust, along with these angle irons that are covered in concrete and those 4x4s. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to save this beam. It would be a waste to throw it away. This thing would make a kick-ass bench. So that's what we're going to do. First, we're going to hit it with the pressure washer, get it all cleaned up, and then we can move on to sanding it and building it. So let's get started. I was truly amazed at how much concrete came off these angle irons, and by far was the hardest part of this project. But in the end, I think it was worth it, because it really gave a unique industrial look to the bench.
All right, so here's one down. I think we'll just need two of these. These things are 40 inches long, so I think if we cut them in 20, that should be plenty high for the bench. It looks like the grinder. I'm going to have to take a sander to this because I think we're going to paint these probably black. But so I'll have to clean this up a little bit more. But most of the concrete's off of them, the hard part. I just have one more to do, and then we can start, cleaning them up and sanding the bench part, as well as the other wooden legs. But this is by far the hardest part of the whole project, getting all the cement off them. But what can you say? Free is free, right? So on to the next one. Well, I guess these are a lot cleaner now. They're not perfect, not by any means, but I think they're good enough for what I'm going to do with them. Not to mention my sanding wheel is pretty much toast.
To begin to start cleaning up this beam, we got to get it to the right sizes. The cut over here that was originally made isn't square, so that needs to be squared up anyways. And there's some checking along the ends here on both sides. So I really just want to take some off both sides here. Now I have a little concrete bench over here that I measured. It's about 4 foot in length. And I think we can make this the same dimensions as that, or at least close. Right now it measures about 4'5". So I got about 2.5 inches that I can take off each side and still be under that 4 foot. So I think that's what we'll do. Typical problem. The total depth of the beam, or thickness of the beam, is 6 5/8. And the total depth of the skill saw, which I got for free by the way, thanks Paul, is 3 inches, which leaves me about 5/8 that I'm going to have in the middle, that I'm going to have to cut by hand, that or bust out the chainsaw. But the chainsaw is not going to give me the finish I really want, so I'll probably have to use my crappy miter saw to get rid of that 5/8 all the way across here, which won't be fun. Alright, boys and girls, as some of you may have guessed, this pinch miter saw ain't gonna work. It's got a lip on the top of it, so I can't get down deep enough into the beam. I really just need a regular wood handsaw, and I could run to the store to go get one, but I live in the middle of nowhere, and it's at least 30 minutes to the hardware store. So, looks like we'll be breaking out the chainsaw. The question we're asking ourselves right now is, will it start? I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. That turned out a hell of a lot better than I thought it would. I mean, it's a nice straight cut. It's not that marred up. I mean, could use the sand, which we're gonna be doing anyways. A little bit of chipping on the edges here, but altogether, that would turn out great. It was a hell of a lot of fun too. I guess I don't pull out my chainsaw enough. All right, the ends are cut. They're square. That went great. I've looked at both sides. I think this is the side that we want for the top. The other side's more beat up, more splintering. So this one's the smoothest. We're gonna sand it anyways, but the only issue with this side is there's a deep knot right here. And it goes down several inches. Normally I would just, like this one, there's one over here that's not as deep. It's not a big deal. But we need to fill that with something. Otherwise water is gonna get in there and just rot the wood. So I'm taking some of the sawdust and some exterior wood glue. We're gonna mix up a paste and we're gonna pack it in there and try to fill it. I know wood filler would probably be better, or even epoxy. I don't have either of those. So we're just gonna do what we can, the best that we can. So. And you can see that thing goes like way down in there. It's just, I mean, it's deep. It's so incredibly deep. Try to get this stuff in here as best I can. I know there's gonna be people out there being like, you should have done this, you should have done that. Like, do I look like a professional to you? I make YouTube content. I'm not a professional. Anyone that thinks I'm a professional hasn't been watching my channel for very long. Get it in there. It's so moist. So incredibly moist. Now this will probably shrink up. I shouldn't even say probably. It will shrink up. And we'll just have to do it again. But I think we got it really close to filling this. And this will at least keep the water from pooling in there and collecting and not drying out, getting nasty. Getting dirty nasty. It's dirty nasty time. Mr. Nasty time. We got to go to the hardware store after all. I don't have any coarse grit sandpaper. All I had was like 100 grit. Now that we've gotten the beam to the basic dimensions that we wanted at, thank you, Mr. Chainsaw, it's time for my favorite part of any project, sanding. I just finished cutting the last metal piece and they turned out pretty good. I think I'm gonna leave them with the finish that's on them right there. I also have another idea as far as the finishing with the boiled linseed oil too. So we'll see how that goes. But until then, I still have to clean up the edges and clean up the other side a little bit more. I've been debating on how to attach the legs to this bench top, and I think the best way to do is just cut out a 4x4 or 3.5 by 3.5 section at each of the corners. That'll be the most secure. The problem with that is my skill saw will only cut a total depth of 2 3/8, probably a little bit less. So I'm gonna have to hand saw the rest of that, and I picked up a new saw you'll see later. It's my super cool Ninja saw. Well, there's all 4 legs cut in. Came out pretty good, but some of these joints are going to need to be cleaned up, and we have to cut the legs. So that'll be next. I want to get these glued in place, but before I do that, I need to get them sanded and cleaned up a little bit more. So let's get to that. So now is probably a good time to let you guys know what the hell I'm doing. So this is the leg. It's going to mount on like that. I'm going to glue it, but I'm not going to trust the glue. I always do mechanical fasteners as well. So I'm going to use these lag bolts to go through each side on here. I'm recessing them because the metal plate, which I welded that to, is going to go on here covering those. Okay? So that's the plan. I'm not going to bore you guys with the rest of the legs. They're all the same. I just got to duplicate them out, sand them up, get them finished, get the metal on, get that finished, and we'll get a lot closer to a finished bench. All right, so a couple things. I went ahead and filled all the cracks with sawdust, wood glue filler. I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but then I started thinking, you know what? If water gets down in these cracks and stuff, it's going to start rotting the wood, and I don't want that. I want this to look good. I've spent enough time on it, so we want to do that right. The other thing is we got a new tool in the shop, which is the Makita planer. I didn't have a hand planer, and I think we're going to need some to kind of clean up some of these edges and even everything out. So we got that. I'm going to do some planing here, some sanding, Maybe another pass with the glue and the wood sawdust to fill just a little bit more. And then we can start putting the finish on, the linseed oil finish. So let's get going. All right, after hours and hours and hours of sanding, I think we're finally ready to put a finish on this bad boy. Now what I'm gonna do, which could end up being a huge mistake, is I'm gonna put a dark stain on the legs. And then the rest will be just with boiled linseed oil. So we'll see how that turns out. Like I said, it could be a huge mistake, could look terrible, but I'm gonna go with it. So here we are to the final end, the finish. All right, so there it is with the legs stained. You can comment below if you think that was a terrible idea. I'm not sure if I like it or not yet, to be honest with you, but maybe it'll grow on me. Still got to linseed oil the whole thing, and then we got the metal to put on it too. Plus I got a little trick up my sleeve that we'll probably do next. But there it is. We'll see how it ends up. We'll get one last shot of it before the final finish. There was a couple areas where the stain didn't take due to some residual glue, so I got those cleaned up on the legs, and I wiped her down with a little bit of mineral spirits just to get any grease or anything that may have been on there. So it's got a little color right now just because of the mineral spirits. I don't know if you can really tell in the video, but the next step is to put the boiled linseed oil on the whole thing and put the metal on, and we'll be done. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. I do have a couple more coats to boiled linseed oil to put on this, but I can do that later. Safety note, if you're going to use boiled linseed oil, make sure you dispose of the rags properly. Don't wad them up and throw them in the trash. You'll burn down your house, as boiled linseed oil does create heat when it dries. Just a safety note there. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.